Move on and talk about Nottingham Forest because the club currently have £12.2 billion worth of shares in issue. What is the significance of that, Keith? If you can give us some insight, what does that mean for the club?
I don't think you're quite right there, Lewis, in terms of it, £12.2 billion. I think there are 12.2 billion shares in issue, and I think the shares are about a penny valuation for each one. Now, look, because it's a big number, 12.2 billion, it's attracted headlines, but it really means nothing. It's just a number of shares in issue. And it's very normal for an owner, and this is a very strong sign again from Marinakis, that he is converting probably some of the debt that he's put into the club, the money he's put into the club, into equity. And it just becomes a mathematical formula as to how many shares have to be issued to do that. So I don't think we have to look at any surprises just because it's a big number. It just depends on the initial valuation of the shares and how many new shares have to be issued to allow for the impact of that debt for City. So for Forest, for Forest. So look, it's nothing exceptional. It's very positive for the club that he's converting the debt into equity, as he's done, I believe, on 2 or 3 other occasions before. So once again, it's just showing him being committed and doing all he can to support the club. So I take it as a very positive sign.
Does it have any bearing, Keith, on FFP or PSR for those listening?
No, not really. Apart from the fact that it wouldn't let the debt get out of control and then having to take some sort of third-party debt with an interest rate. I don't think it will impact PSR in any way, but it does help the structure of the club being stable. So they've still got to watch their spending overall and hopefully increase the revenue stream is what we're going to have to try and do somehow.
And we saw, Keith, recently they launched their home kit, actually, which they sort of unveiled as a massive flying kit over the City ground. It was a bit of a surprise. There were mixed reactions on socials to the shirts. What are your thoughts on the argument of the home kit being similar every single year?
Well, I'm not a creative director, but I do think that certainly the unveil is certainly a dramatic thing that should be done, and I get the whole point of trying to do that and change it every year. When it comes to it, fans do like something that is pretty much the same as before. They know what their club is, what the club kit is. It's red and white for Forest, and there are little bits and pieces that can be changed and altered. But overall, I tend to find that fans do like stability of design. They do like a little occasional change, here or there, tinkering with it, but nothing's too special. So I don't think they want anything dramatic. So I think that's what the fans tend to want, in my experience. Of course, there's always room for innovation about fabrics and different things like that. But overall, I think the majority of Forest fans will want to see a nod to tradition as much as they can do.
There's some talk as well, Keith, that the third and the away shirt and the third kit are normally quite unique. Is that then fair on Adidas, rather than calling them out and saying, the shirt's quite boring, it's plain? Actually, that their argument would be that they would try and sort of incorporate a different design into those 2 other kits.
Well, it gives them more opportunity to do that, certainly. And that's probably where we've seen most innovation recently, in when they've tried to take a bit of a flyer and be more creative on those areas, because they're not quite so substantial. And if they hit it lucky, then they can repeat it the following season in the main kit in some way. So they're obviously, testing the market in different ways. And the second and third kit, especially the third kit, seems to be the way that people are moving on it so far.
And in terms of transfer news, it looks like Che Adams has been heavily linked with the club, potentially could be moving to the City ground. What do you make of that news, Keith? Would that be a good signing for Nuno and the squad?
I think Shea's proven himself to be like a good journeyman Premier League forward. I think he will probably get them between 10 to 15 goals a season. I certainly think that not Steve Cooper. I've got my managers mixed up there. Sorry,
Nuno.
Go back from there. Sorry. Yeah. I think Nuno will find the value of Che Adams up front. I think he's certainly the sort of busy worker and that Nuno would like. So I think he fits into the system. And as I say, I'd expect him to get 10, 12 to 15 goals on a really good season. So I think he can be a good signing. He knows the Premier League. He knows what's expected. And yes, I think that could work out pretty well for Forest.
If they can hold onto Keith, some of their key assets, those key stars at the club, where could they expect to finish next season? What would be a good season for Nuno next year?
What I see Forest, and I think what Marinakis will demand of Nuno, is a relegation-free sort of fearing season, that they establish themselves from 10 to 15, remain there all season, and there's no worry about relegation. That would be what I'm sure Marinakis has in his mind for this year. And they start to the whole busy 5-year cycle of trying to establish themselves in the Premier League. That's what he wants. Of course, provided there are no more points deductions, which was a big thing for them. They were almost doing that last season. So I think that's what he'd expect at least. If they get lucky and push towards 10th, I think that would be great. And then Forest would start feeling that they're getting the hang of this, and that Marinakis would be happy, and that you'd see a more stable asset. So that's what I think his target is. And I think if Nuno doesn't achieve that, if he does have another relegation battle season for whatever reason, then I think he's going to have to be thinking that Marinakis is not shy of pushing the button.
And in terms of positions, Keith, looking at their squad, do you feel they need any other real key players? Are there any other positions they need to bolster in to really push for, say, that 10 to 15th finish for next season?
Yeah, I think cover in the defence is still something that they're still a little bit short on. Injuries last season, revealed that they haven't got the cover. So I think that's what Nuno is going to be working on, is having some balance behind the main players and having a squad-based situation. That's what they need to be consistent, because everybody gets the injuries, and they've got to have that consistency to get to where I just mentioned they should be.
You've just watched a segment from Football Insider's brand new podcast, The Inside Track, with me, Lewis Pearce, alongside the guests on the show. Thanks very much for tuning in. Please do give the video a like, comment your thoughts on the topic, and feel free to share on your social media pages. If you want to listen to the full podcast episode, click the link in the description below. Keep your eyes peeled for plenty more content and exclusives here on The Inside Track.